everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of season 3. And finally, we have TrueEvil, also known as True. How's it going, True?
What's up, everyone? PSN's number 1 Becca player playing here. I'm sorry, but I am the best. What's going on, Aoife? It's about time.
What's going on, man? Finally, you get your time.
I don't know, the usual. Lagging, getting my ass chain grabbed. It's all good, you know. It's all good.
All right, True. First question, True. Why are you so bad?
Wait, what? Why am I so bad? I don't know. It's it's because I'm constantly lagging, okay? It's because I'm playing on Wi-Fi and my Wi-Fi is terrible. So that's why I'm so laggy. Yeah.
All right, the real first question, True. Who is your main survivor and main mastermind, and why?
Well, I think by now everybody knows that my main survivor is Becca. The reason for this is because I just like the speed and the damage output that she has. I've always been a fan of like run and gunning, like first-person shooters, third-person shooters. This wasn't always the case, however. When the game first came out, my main survivor was actually Valerie, whom I've actually returned to because I don't really play Becca much anymore. The reason why I used to play Valerie in the early days is because I never trusted randoms to play her because they wouldn't use her correctly. Like, they'd just scan like empty rooms or put the heal spray down while no one was even like, you know, on the ground or whatever. So the reason why I decided to switch to Becca is because at the time, one of my friends who I used to play with was also a Valerie player. So we used to bicker saying like, oh, I want to play Valerie, oh, I want to play Valerie. But in the end, I just thought, you know what, I'll let you go, I'll play someone else. So I decided to play as the most attractive character in the game, and that character would be Becky, of course. I just like the play style of just being able to run around quickly and just kill things quickly. It makes the game feel more like action-oriented, which I guess Resident Evil isn't really meant to be action-oriented. But it is a nice change of pace sometimes, and that's the reason why I play Becky the way I do. My main mastermind, I don't really have a main mastermind, but the one that I do play the most commonly is Spencer. The reason for this is just because I hate sitting around waiting for bioenergy to recharge. I like my games to be fast-paced and intense. So the reason why I play Spencer is because he has that bioenergy recharge ability. You know, when you lock doors, activate lifts, light switches, whatever, you gain that little bit of bioenergy. So instead of just sitting around doing nothing, waiting for that little meter to fill, I can like hop around the map and fill it myself and just swarm people with a crap ton of zombies and hopefully make it a intense, fast-paced, but overall fun match for everybody.
Now, once RE3 dropped, what brought you to Resistance? And did you try the beta?
To be fair, when Resident Evil 3 and Resistance was announced, I was actually more interested in Resistance than Resident Evil 3. At the time, I was actually playing Resident Evil Outbreak online, and Resident Evil Resistance is the closest thing to that I could think of within the franchise, except this time it's PvP instead of PvE. I liked the concept of like teamwork and working together towards taking down and being able to survive whatever it is that the mastermind decides to throw at you. I only ever played Resident Evil 3 once. I only finished the game once and then I just thought, you know what, this game sucks, I ain't playing it again. Resident Evil 3 for me was a huge disappointment. I did play the beta version of this game as well when the beta first came out. The very first character that I actually played was January. I went with this because my birthday's in January, so I just thought, hey, I'll play the character that's named after the month I was born in. My cringe-worthy beta play is actually still up on my own YouTube channel, so if anybody wants to watch Torch Jan in action, it's all there. I've done it all in the beta version of the game, I don't care. But I was always interested in like a cooperative Resident Evil game because there aren't many of them besides like Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil Revelations, Raid Mode and all that. But those games are all PvE, and I think Resistance is the first like cooperative game that's like, you know, you're actually playing against another player instead of playing against AI. So that's what brought me into Resistance.
Now, True, in your opinion, what is the best squad of characters to have for a team, and why?
I'm a little torn on this because I truly believe that skilled players should try to win with their favourite team and not what's considered best. My favourite team personally is the girl squad, just because they're nice to look at. I'm not going to lie. But I understand that this isn't the best team to play. In my opinion, the best team to play would be Valerie, Jan, Tyrone, and Jill. You know, the alpha team, I think people call it. The reason for this is because I think that setup is more consistent against camera-oriented builds. Most of the stronger builds tend to be more camera-oriented, I think. And being able to take down cameras quickly, I think, is the key to success in this game. Just being able to block out and stall the mastermind. But that's not what I consider my best team. Like, I truly believe that the best team is just whatever people enjoy playing. You know, truly skilled players win with the favourites. They don't just go to whatever's best in the game, in my opinion.
Is there anyone in particular that inspired you to be better at this game, True, and improve or change your style?
As Survivor, not really. I mean, I've always wanted to improve on my own because I want what I know in the game to be like my own skill, my own knowledge. As Mastermind, I'm not gonna lie, I used to absolutely fucking hate playing Mastermind in the early days. But the reason why I decided to give Mastermind a go is because I just got sick of idiots running amok in solo queue. So I thought to myself, you know, I keep getting idiots on my team, so why don't I punish the same idiots instead? The one person that really inspired me to play Mastermind more was Rat Labs. I remember I used to play against him an awful ton in the early days of the game. And I used to find every single match against him interesting because he would constantly like change his builds, change preset, and that really got me thinking. You know, like what kind of stuff could I do as Mastermind? How could I play the game? So I decided to start playing Mastermind a little bit more often, and right now I play like non-meta, stupid, dumb builds just for the lols. I don't really play serious Mastermind builds. But the reason for this, well, I'll get to that later. But to be fair, nobody really inspired me to play Survivor better. Well, aside from the fellow Becca mains, of course, like yourself. But apart from that, not really anybody really inspired me to play this game. But on the Mastermind side, a lot of people inspired me to play Mastermind. But in order to play Survivor, nah, not kind of hard to say who inspired me to play Survivor more, so yeah.
Now, do you play this game casually or competitively? Sweat or non-meta?
Again, it's kind of hit and miss with this. When I'm with a full team, I always try my best. I don't want to be the one that drags the team down. But in terms of like Mastermind, as you all know, you've seen me play stupid builds like Gun Alex and Nerfed Nicholai and Buffless Annette and you know, all kinds of the stupid builds that I enjoy to play. But if I'm in a full team on the Survivor side, I do tend to try a little bit harder. But if I'm just playing like by myself or just playing like a character I wouldn't normally use, I generally just play a bit more casual. Survivor is kind of like a mix of both. It depends on who I'm up against as well. If I'm up against like one of the, you know, high skill top level players, then I will be trying my hardest because I don't want to make myself look like a dumbass. You know, claiming to be the best Becca in the game and yet I'm getting team wiped in area 1. That's not good, is it? But in terms of Mastermind, I play like purely casual. I play like nerfed versions of meta builds, and the reason why I do this is to give all players a fair chance of winning, regardless of skill level. Anybody could beat me, you know, as Mastermind. But as Survivor, I do like to try my best if I'm in a full team. But if I'm just playing solo queue, then I don't really give a crap, you know. Anything goes in solo queue. It's every man for himself.
Now, True, why have you been known to rage quit?
The reason, I don't know, like, why do I rage quit sometimes. There are times where I just get so annoyed with the game. Like, my RNG oftentimes is fucking terrible. Like, I'll get, like, awful core spawns. And a mistake that I used to make, well, I actually still do, is I tend to eat up my own mod cards and end up spending 10 bioenergy on nothing, so I usually screw myself over. Um, against certain builds, I've been known to rage quit as well, because those builds to me are just like, you know what, fuck you, this is cheap, this is bullshit, I don't give a fuck, suck my dick kind of thing, I don't care. But it depends, like, really, like, usually I get, like, annoyed. I get annoyed quite easily, not so much anymore, because I just live with it now. But in the old days, it was like, you know what, I ain't dealing with this bullshit anymore. I go and find a game that's actually fun instead of just goop machine gun and stun lock traps and all that garbage. So yeah, that's the reason why. Buy RNG as Mastermind is just plain awful. And against those cheap builds, I don't really consider that fun. It's just annoying, it's just cheap, it's boring, it's repetitive. So that's the reason why I do tend to just flip out and just be like, fuck this, I'm out of here, kind of thing.
Have you ever felt the game is too one-sided, more in favor of Survivor or more in favor of Mastermind?
This has been like a flip-flop, I believe, through the history of the game. When the game first came out, I would say that the game was highly Mastermind-sided because nobody really knew what they were doing. And then over time, it went like back and forth, like it became Survivor-sided, Mastermind-sided, Survivor-sided, Mastermind-sided, and so on. In the game's current state, I believe that it depends on the map that you get. Certain maps are more in favor of Mastermind, like the amusement park, for example. Certain maps are more in favor of Survivor, like Research Lab and all that. But you have to consider, like, those maps were designed when the game was much more slower paced, when nobody really had like a certain build yet. Everybody was just running like a mismatch of cards, mismatched deck that didn't really make sense. But as of now, I believe that the game is more sided in favor of what map that you get. If you get like one of the smaller maps, like one of the earlier maps, then I would say it was more like Survivor sided. But if you get one of the later maps that came in later, like Prison, Bemusement Park, Uptown, and whatever else, I think those maps are more in favor of the Mastermind. But that's my thoughts on that. I think the game is like half and half, like in its current state. But in the early days, it was definitely like Survivor-sided, Mastermind-sided, Survivor-sided, and back and forth, like playing tennis or something. So yeah.
What's your best memory of this game, True? And who were you with when it happened?
There's been a couple. Like I'll say the very first one, the very first memorable match for me was that disastrous match when we played against Ranger Danger. Bear in mind that was the very first like real serious match that we ever played, and we didn't really understand at the time like how serious a match on this game could get. I know I kind of made an idiot of it myself, but you know. Also, when I reached 999 with Becky, I think I was with, I can't remember who I was with. I know Ex Nihilo was there. I think I was with IDK and Scooby as well when I got 999 Becca. Another one as well was obviously when I get into a match against you and I get to bully you, but you just run away from me all the time because you know what I'm going to do. I still do that, by the way. I still bully Becca plays, so you ain't safe. But for me, I'd say like the first memory of this game was that disaster with Ranger Danger. I got nothing against him, you know. It was our first serious match. Reaching 999 as Becky and all that, and just generally like having a good time. Like most of the memorable matches for me come from like non-meta builds, because meta builds are just repetitive and boring in my opinion. Well, it's impossible for me to like really name like all these masterminds that I've been against and had a blast against. I recently had a really good match against Dominic on Bemusement Park with his Spencer, and that was the more recent good memory of this game. But there's been so many that it's really impossible for me to name them all. But specific ones like those that I just mentioned stand out for me.
What are your thoughts on the Resistance community as of right now? And why do you still play in it, True?
My thoughts on the community. I've got nothing against anybody really in the community personally. If anybody's got any gripe towards me, I'm sorry. Just know that when I'm bullying Beccas, I'm only doing that for the lols, you know. I'm doing that for my own entertainment. I think though, certain people in the community need to like grow up a little bit. They're constantly like bickering and arguing with each other. And for some strange reason, it's always the Nicholai mains, the Nicholai players that tend to be the most toxic towards one another. Like I mentioned in a comment on one of your own videos, I mean, nothing changes. You all play the exact same. All you do is goot machine gun people, and you claim to be better than the other player. Like, no. The reason why I still play the game is because I still find it fun. You know, I still find it fun. I still enjoy coming up with like weird mastermind builds. I even come up with like weird survivor builds. And let me just throw it out the window and make it clear, okay? That myth, did I really play Lucky Charms on Becca all that time ago? Do you want to know the answer?
Yes, True, we all want to know.
Do you all want to know? Did I really play Lucky Charms on Becca at one point? And the answer to that is yes. Why? It's because I have a bad habit of always being the one to pick up credits. And nobody on the team was playing credits at the time, so I would. I didn't care. I don't give a crap. And the reason why I decided to play credits on Becca is so I have more money for ammo, so I can shoot longer. Woo. But I think the community is, not to me personally, at least I don't think so. But I know certain people, they act really bad towards one another, and to these people I'd say, like, come on. The community, the player base on this game is quite small, as we both know. So let's try and keep what we have. I also wish the community as well would stop playing meta builds every single match, because if you're like me and you like to play solo queue every now and then just for, you know, just for make yourself pissed off, I guess. Playing against a meta build is just pointless, because you know you have like 0 chance of winning if you go against that crap when you're playing solo queue. I really wish the community would be more like me and just chill every now and then, just play like a dumb build, a watered down build, and just have fun. It's for me, it's not about winning or losing. I don't care if I win or lose a match. But for me, as long as I had fun, as long as the survivors had fun, as long as the mastermind had fun, then to me it's a win for everybody. But I really wish like the community would just stop using the same repetitive builds over and over and over and over again. I understand that you got to play those builds in order to practice and get better with them, but in terms of like solo queue matches, do you really need to play like broken builds against solo queue just to get an area 1 win? I can win in area 1 with non-meta builds just perfectly fine, and if I can do it, anybody can. So please, I beg the entire community to quit playing the same builds over and over and actually try something different. Trust me, you'll have a lot more fun and you'll enjoy the game a lot more if you decide to switch up your builds every now and then.
Alright, True, so how would you change the meta of this game? What would you add or remove from it? Maybe weaker guns?
First and foremost, I'd take Nicholai at the fucking game, because I don't think it's any secret that I can't stand Nicholai. I think that he is the ruination of this game. So many of my old friends have quit the game because of that bullshit. Out of my original team, like my original 4, I'm the only one that actually still plays. So I think that try-hardy builds like that just turn people away from the game, and it's not fun for a solo queue player as well. Like, imagine if it's your very first game of Resistance, you come out the starting room, you open that first door, and then all of a sudden you hear punk. You get gooped, and then all of a sudden you hear and then you're dead in seconds. It's not fun. It's frustrating and it's annoying. How would I change the game though? Like, first and foremost, I would give creatures a built-in endurance effect, but it's like a nerfed endurance effect. Like, while you're controlling a creature and just walking around, you can't get stunned. There's no knockback. But if you are like swiping with a creature or doing like the grab animation, then you do get stunned like normal. I would increase the health on certain bioweapons like Mr. X and Nemesis. I find those two are a little bit too weak. And for players like ourselves, we can down Mr. X in like, seconds without effort most of the time. I think Yatevio should be buffed in a way like when it's in the lurking menace, when you're not controlling it. I think the damage on Yatevio when it's not being controlled should be weakened just a little bit, maybe about 25%. I would make it so like crawler zombies and zombies in general can't control doors, because that shit doesn't even make any sense. There isn't even an animation for anything. The switch just like, moves on its own. So how the hell does a zombie be able to control like doors and stuff? I don't get it. I think everything else I find is perfectly fine. There is one change that I would like to make towards like the goop or the slime gun, whatever you call it. If you see the goop like flying through the air, just as it's about to hit you, if you can shoot the goop while it's in midair, it breaks and then doesn't have any effect on anybody. I think that would be like a nice counter to that. But apart from that, I can't really think of anything else I would really change. I think the game in itself is in a pretty decent state if you know how to play. But those would be the things that I would change personally. Maybe as well in like custom matches, when you play customs, I would have like an infinite equipment points mode where you can just like go crazy with your equipment points. You could have like 50 equipment points or whatever. And maybe as well you can play like mastermind and maps. Like area 1 you could have downtown area 1, area 2 you could have like bemusement area 2, and area 3 you could have like prison area 3. I think that would make things pretty cool. Like when you edit your map presets, that's what it could be like. But this stuff would only really like happen in like custom matches. You could have like endless equipment points. You could mix and match the masterminds as well. Like imagine having defense Daniel or endurance Alex or terminal Annette or something like that. There's all kinds of possibilities in custom matches, and I don't think it was really used to its full potential. But that's what I would change.
All right, True. Now it's time for the 3 fun questions. Now, in your opinion, just for fun, which player is the best with that particular survivor? So, best Valerie?
Best Valerie is hard for me because there's a crap ton of good Valerie players, I find. Just to name a few, I have to give special shout out to my long-time friend Depo Strian Polo. I don't think that he's the best Valerie in the game, but he's definitely really good considering where we came from. Other solid Valerie players, I'm just going to try and think of the players that I think that still play. So I'm not really going to name anybody that used to play. Another really good Valerie player that I hear of is Violet. I've only really had Violet on my team a few times, but I think she plays pretty solid. Sims 21p is another fantastic Val. I have a lot of fun playing with Sims on the team. There's just so many Valerie players that it's really, really hard for me to name them all because I don't know. But those are the ones that like stand out the most for me personally. Obviously you had like Data Scorpion like in the old days, but I don't think he plays anymore. He was really good as Val. But there's so many good Valerie players, it's impossible for me to like really name them all. But if I did miss anybody, I apologise. It's just that I've played with so many good Valerie players that it's just impossible for me to name them. But those are the ones that really stand out the most for me in terms of playing Valerie.
Best Jan?
Well, I'm not going to give it to the obvious pick. There's a lot of really good January players. Yo Girl Texting Me, I think, is an amazing Jan. That's the one I tend to play with the most. Richie Roulette actually makes a pretty solid Jan as well. I have to give special props as well to Bam, for playing USB Jan. That man is just absolutely crazy for doing that. But the fact that he makes it work, I have a lot of respect for him for doing that. He's playing like something that most people wouldn't even dream of doing. And, just to throw it in, because I know he'll get mad if I don't say his name, that guy, Dominic 1517, yeah, I have to mention him in order so he doesn't get pissy with me. But there's a lot of really good Jan players out there, and but for me, those are the ones that I have the most personal experience with. Those are the ones that I've seen play with or against me like the most. So props to you. Props to you guys.
Best Sam.
Sam players. There used to be a lot of really good Sam players. I can't really think of any off the top of my head that actually still play, however. I have to mention Weston. Weston's a pretty good Sam. Apart from that, though, I can't really think of any really good Sam players. It's really, really hard for me to think of, like, a good Sam. Oh, of course, my alter ego as well, you know, MouseEvil, TrueEvil. We both play damage dealers, but we suck with each other's characters, which is ironic, I find. I have to give special shout-outs to him. He's a chill guy. He's really fun to play with. I like the way he goes, like, limit break activated. Like, what is this, Final Fantasy VII? But yeah, I have to give special props to Mouse. Mouse is probably the Sam that I see the most. I don't really see a lot of people other than him and Weston play Sam that often. So Sam players, I can't really think of any. Don't get mad at me if I can't remember anybody's names. It's hard for me to remember everybody's names. I've played this game with a crap ton of teams. I'll play this game with anybody. But yeah, those two really stand out for me when it comes to playing Sam.
Best Tyrone.
Tyrone is an awkward one. Jared James is obviously a pretty solid Tyrone. I've never really played with him before, but I understand. I'm sorry if I butcher the name. I'm sorry if I say this wrong. But Kai Hiwatari, is it? I've seen him play Tyrone, and I think he plays Tyrone pretty good. Other Tyrone players. My old friend Bobby Bell used to be pretty good with Tyrone, but I don't think he plays anymore. Carlos DH, who is usually part of Team Depot, he pisses me off because he knows exactly how I play. He knows that I like to spam my creature control, and he plays that stupid shock dildo to stop me doing so. Blech! I hate that shit. But Tyrone players, those guys are the ones that I think stand out like the most. I can't really. It's really, really hard for me to name like the best survivors, but I will try to name like a few that I think are pretty good. So for Tyrone, I'd say those guys are the ones that I would like to have on the team, and I'd like to throw in Conqueror 13 as well. He's pretty good as Tyrone from what I've seen.
Best Martin.
Martin is probably the most difficult for me. Does anybody actually play Martin? I know there was a guy a few episodes before me named Gloomy Sunday. I have to give respect to him. He's the only real Martin man that I can think of. I understand French Reaper usually plays Martin as well. Sorry, Martin. But most people usually just play Martin. Why do I keep saying Tyrone? Most people usually play Martin just for the laughs. I think. I don't think there is any like real serious Martin player apart from Gloomy Sunday. You know that's the only real Martin man that I can really think of. Like, yeah, Martin is a hard one. I'm sorry. But can you stop flashing my creatures as well? I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Best Becca.
Well, that's obvious, isn't it? You've been hearing the voice of the best Becca all through this entire interview. But the best Becca is myself, of course. In terms of competitive matches, I will have to give the crown to yourself. Because you have more experience against the more competitive builds than I do. But in terms of like killing bioweapons and killing crowds, I don't think any other Becca does that better than what I do. I'm sorry. But in terms of competitive Beccas, I'd say you were the best one. But in terms of like non-competitive, non-meta Beccas, I would say I was the best one. I hear very good things again about this Lizzie XV as well, so I'll have to throw her in. I'd have to throw in my buddy Richie Roulette as well, who plays a very similar build to my own. There's a lot of really good Beccas, but there's also a lot of really bad ones, which really infuriates me. But I don't mean to brag, but I really, really do consider myself to be the best Becca in the entire game, in terms of doing what a Becca is supposed to do, which is killing creatures and bioweapons and all that. I don't think anybody does that faster or more efficient than myself. But in terms of playing against more competitive builds, I will have to give it to you. And I hate saying this, but I will own up to that fact there. You do play against the more competitive builds better than I do. So, woo, go us.
Thank you, True, very much. I appreciate that. Best Jill.
Oh, there's a lot of good Jill players. Again, the two that really stand out for me is IDK and Ex Nihilo. Those two guys, like, if I try to like play cameras or even creatures, I'm like, what cameras and creatures? I don't ever have any because they just kill them so quick, and they take out my cameras so quick. There are other Jill players, but I'm not going to mention them because it's recently came to my view that a lot of the really good Jill players tend to cheat, like the dupe items and stuff. Like, why? You don't need to do that, guys. You're already good players. Like, come on. But those two, I tend to face the most. Those two guys, I see them play against me like a lot, and they play Jill like really beautifully. They play Jill fantastic. They don't rush in and die like all the solo queue Jills do. If it was naming like the worst Jills, I could give you like a list of like thousands of the worst Jills, just all of them that you encounter in solo queue. But those two, they really stand out for me when it comes to Jill players. I've played with them a lot, and I've played against them a lot, and every single match against them is rough. So I would have to give it to those two with the Jills. There are other good Jill players as well, but most of the Jills, the other good Jill players play mixtape rockets, and I'm just like, why? If you're playing rockets, remember you don't have a passive skill for like nearly 5 minutes. Whereas if you play like Samurai Edge Jill or Hot Dogger Jill, you know you have that passive skill kick in like much sooner, so you can start taking down cameras and whatever. You know, counter surveillance Jill I think is the best Jill build, and those guys really know how to make that work. So yeah, for Jill it would be those two guys, IDK and Ex Nihilo. Props to you.
All right, True. Now, in your opinion, which player is the best with that particular mastermind? So, best Daniel?
This is going to be a hard one for me because I'm actually going to have two different lists for this. I'm going to have a non-meta mastermind player, but I'm also going to have a meta mastermind. The best Daniel, did you say? The best Daniel I'd have to say is Raven. I don't know whether he still plays or not though. Matches against him get quite intense. Jetfire as well also makes a pretty solid Daniel. But I understand that Daniel isn't really considered like meta or anything. But I would have to give it for those two guys as like Daniel like overall. So those are the two best Daniels for me. But there are other players that can play Daniel pretty solid. I do like the way Nicholai plays Daniel. It makes me smile actually when I actually see him playing creature builds instead of, you know, Nicholai all the time. But Daniel is, yeah, I'd say Raven and Jetfire were the best Daniels that I can think of.
Best Alex?
The best Alex, I can't really think of a non-meta Alex, so I'd have to go down the boring list and play like and list all the meta Alex builds. The best Alex for me that I seem to have the most matches against would be Ex Nihilo. He's really good at controlling the doors. You know, that's all Infection Alex does. It's just open and close doors over and over and over again. There was other Alex players, but I can't really name them all. But Ex Nihilo, from my experience, is the best Alex because he's just the one that I've played against the most. So yeah, against like Infection Alex, I would say Ex Nihilo was the best. In terms of Trap Alex, I don't really see Trap Alex very often, but when I do, the best Trap Alex that I have the most memories of is Icevesca's Trap Alex. I don't play against her that often. Oh, Icevesca is also a pretty good Valerie player as well, so I have to throw that in. But in terms of Trap Alex, I would say that she's the best one. But in terms of like Infection Alex, I'd say Ex Nihilo is the best one because those two are the ones that I've personally played against and experienced the most. So in terms of like non-meta Alex though, I can't really think of any Alex players that have like stood out. So, well, unless you like stepping in my invisible trap gun Alex, of course, but you know, that doesn't really count. So yeah, those two respectively for Infection Alex and Trap Alex.
Best Annette?
Ooh, the best Annette. Well. Aside from the obvious pick, again, I'll have to give props to Dominic1517 to stop him getting angry at me. In terms of the non-meta Annettes, though, I remember I used to have a lot of really good matches against Dr. Hayes, with whether anybody knows him, and Thomas Equinas, I think that's how you pronounce his name. They make pretty solid like Annette players as well. I've had a lot of good matches against them. But in terms of everybody else playing Annette, it's really hard because everybody plays Annette like the same way. Everybody just plays like either defense buff Annette or whatever it's called, or they'll play like ambush Annette. But ambush Annette I find like is very inconsistent, and that build can go horribly wrong. I don't think I've really had like a really good ambush Annette before, but in terms of like buff Annettes, those three guys really play Annette pretty good, and I've had a lot of fun against them. Obviously, I would have the most fun against Annette because, you know, in the zone fever skill, it just rips them apart.
Best Spencer.
The best Spencer, again, in terms of creature Spencer, I would like to say myself is a pretty good creature Spencer. I mean, obviously the SWAT team steamrolled me, but I don't care. In terms of terminal Spencer, I would have to give it to. There's actually two terminal Spencers that I can think of that play pretty good. The number one terminal Spencer I find is G Money Streets. I just like the way he plays. The way he like goops somewhere and then he goes, "I am pleased, excellent." I just find that so funny. Another really good terminal Spencer that I can name is somebody named Unknown J Plays. I'm not sure if anybody's ever actually heard of him. But in terms of creature Spencer, I would like to say myself is a pretty good terminal creature Spencer. I like to put pressure on people. I can't really think of any other creature Spencers apart from my own. And again, Thomas Equinas is also a pretty good creature Spencer, so I'd have to give a special shout out to him as well again. So props to you, bro. Yeah, so for Spencer's, terminal Spencer, it'd be G Money Streets and Unknown J Plays. But in terms of creature Spencer, I would like to consider myself a pretty decent creature Spencer. You guys let me know. Do you enjoy playing against my creature Spencer? Do I make a good creature Spencer? Do let me know. And Thomas Equinas as well, I think, is a pretty good creature Spencer. I've had a lot of fun against him in the past.
Uh-oh. Best Nicholai?
In my opinion, there is no best Nicholai because they all play the same. I truly believe Nicholai is the ruination of this game. I think that Nicholai players in general are very toxic. Not towards me, but they're very toxic towards each other, which I don't understand. Like, why? Why is there such like a fierce competition between Nicholai players? I can, however, name one good creature Nicholai that I played against recently. His name was Zed Police Officer. He used to be known as Dark Rock X90. He played a creature Nicholai and it was actually really freaking good. It was a lot of fun. It was intense. He actually got us down to low time as well. And I think I was actually playing Becca against him and he almost beat me. But in terms of like the typical Nicholai, in my opinion, there is no best Nicholai player. I'm just going to go out and say it. I truly believe Nicholai has ruined the game. So many people hate Nicholai. And I think these people as well that play Nicholai know this. That's the reason why they continuously play Nicholai, because they just enjoy ruining the game for everybody. Like, Nicholai in solo queue is pretty much impossible to beat, whereas every other mastermind you have a slim chance to win. But against a Nicholai in solo queue, no, don't even bother, don't even try. But for me, I consider like Nicholais to be like the ruination of the community. They ruin the player base. I've spoken to a lot of people on like my own YouTube channel. I've spoken to people over PSN. I've spoken to people on Twitch, and I ask people like, which mastermind do you hate the most? And everybody says the same thing: I hate Nicholai the most. So I ask why. Why is it that you hate Nicholai so much? And the answer to that is always the same as well. It's just cheap kills. You know, you just get gooped and then you just get machine gunned and you're dead in seconds. Like, where's the skill in that? Goop machine gun, the way I look at it is pretty much like somebody coming up to you, taking the controller away from you, and then giving it you back. And then by the time you've got the controller back, you're already dead. Like, that's no skill whatsoever. Just being able to shoot somebody that's essentially standing still is no skill. I truly believe Nicholai takes no skill if that's all you're going to do to get cheap kills on people. So for me, there is no best Nicholai, I'm sorry. Apart from that one that I did mention that did play a pretty good creature Nicholai. But in terms of typical Nicholai, there is no best Nicholai, I'm sorry. You guys, you ruin the game for a lot of people. You ruin the game for me as well. Like, I quit Resistance for several months at a time sometimes because I just get so sick of Nicholai. It's just boring, it's repetitive, it's cheap, it's cheesy, and it's annoying. It just ruins the game for so many people. And yeah, I'm sorry, but there is no best Nicholai. There isn't one. It doesn't exist.
Final question. Who are a couple special players you prefer to play with, True? Maybe someone you can play in duo queue or depend on the most in a sweaty match?
I don't really... I tend to not play duo queue and trio queue or whatever that often. When I'm seeing in a match, I'm usually either solo queuing or I'm with like a full team. I will happily play this game with anybody. It don't matter how good you are, I'll play with anybody, I don't care. But I have to give my special love to the Depot team. Those guys, I've been playing with those guys for over a year now. We all met each other in solo queue the one chance many months ago, back in like, July 2020. And we all realized that we all knew what each other were doing. We decided to team up together and we just went from there. We just gradually evolved into a more like tightly bound team. I do enjoy playing with those guys. I really do. Those guys are like my favorite team to play with, and probably the team that you'll catch me the most with as well. But in terms of overall, I will play this game gladly with anybody. It don't matter who you are. You can be rank 1 and I'll play with you. I don't care. I'll play with anybody on this game. I'll play all skill levels. Everybody is welcome to play with me. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you are. You're all welcome to play with me. I'll play with this game with anybody. But those guys, the Depot team, those are like my main guys. Those are like the ones that I really do enjoy playing with the most. I do enjoy playing with Sims a lot as well, because when we do those weird dances together and we just generally like wind each other up and, you know, we just have a laugh, we just have a good time. But that's what I want Resistance to be. I want it to be a laugh, I want it to be a good time. That's the reason why I refuse to play meta builds. I mean, I suck as Mastermind, but do I really? I mean, I'm intentionally putting myself at a disadvantage by playing like weak builds, and the reason why I do this is because I want the game to be fun for everybody. I want people to like, oh, it's this guy, we might have a good chance of beating him because he plays like this weird build. I mean, I can name all the builds I play. I play Buffless Annette, I play Berserker Charge Daniel, I play Stealth Trap Alex. The only real build that I actually have is Creature Spencer, and I play Goopless and Air Cannonless Nicholai, so I can't get cheap kills on people like all the other Nicholai players do. But in terms of overall, I will play this game with anybody. But Team Depot holds a special place for me. We've been playing this game for nearly 2 years now, and every match has been a lot of fun. Win or lose, we don't care, as long as the experience is fun. That's what matters to me the most. As long as everybody had fun, as long as the Mastermind had fun, as long as the survivors had fun, it's a win for me. I don't care. So, yeah, I'll play this game with anybody, really.
Any final statements or anything you want to say, True?
Just real quick, just as an added bonus, who do I consider my worst survivor? Well, I consider my worst survivor to be Sam, of course. I just absolutely suck with him. I really want to ask the community as a whole to stop playing meta builds, stop playing every single match seriously, because trust me, you'll have a lot more fun playing it, and solo queue players will actually respect you for it as well. Like, I've had people message me saying like, that was an interesting build that you had there, what was it? And I'll gladly share people my builds, and people actually like copy my builds. I've actually played like against people using the exact same builds that I use because people enjoy playing against them. I really do wish that the community as well would just lay off one another. You know, the player base for this game is small. Let's keep what we have, ladies and gentlemen. Let's try and keep what we have. Let's keep the game fun. Let's keep it enjoyable for everybody. and you know, just have fun and have a good time. Switch up the builds, you know, make matches interesting rather than playing like, oh, we're playing against Nicholai on this player, yeah, we all know what to expect. We're playing against Alex on this player, yeah, we all know what to expect. Yeah, we're playing against Annette, blah blah blah, we all know what to expect. I really wish more people would mix it up and not be afraid to lose. And that's my biggest gripe with the community. I think that some people have let it get to the head that they consider themselves amazing players, that they're afraid to lose. Because, you know, when so and so people lose, they get uploaded on YouTube saying, like, oh, we beat so and so, trash mastermind, blah blah blah. Like, why? It's not a competition, guys. We all play this game for the same reason. We all play video games in general for the same reason. What are video games' main purpose? It's to have fun. It's not to rip each other apart for being trash at the game or for losing or whatever. It's to have fun, and I really wish more people would understand this, and I really wish more people would play like, you know, silly builds just for fun. You know, give the solo queue players a chance, and give the teams a challenge. You know, it makes the game more interesting when you're playing like a different build rather than playing against the same builds over and over and over again. But that's my biggest issue with the community, is that some people have just let it get to the heads that they're too scared to lose. I don't care if I lose. I don't care if you have 10 minutes on the clock. I don't care if you have 20 minutes on the clock. As long as the match was fun, then I won. You know, as long as you had fun against me, it's all good. It's all good for me. But that's all I really want to say. Really, just stop playing the game so seriously, and actually change builds every now and then.
All right, TrueEvil. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it, bro.
No problem. Thanks for having me.